The sun was sinking over Beverly Hills when Grace Hollander's black Bentley turned through the iron gates of her glass-walled mansion. She was home 3 hours early, something no one expected. The air was still, heavy with the scent of roses and chlorine from the pool. Inside, her heels struck the marble floor like quiet alarms. For a woman who built a billion-dollar empire, Grace feared nothing, until that night. A whisper cut through the silence. "Don't move." A hand covered her mouth. She twisted, ready to fight, then froze. It was Michael Donnelly, the estate's janitor. His blue eyes were wild. "Please," he breathed. "If he hears you, the kids are dead." Grace's pulse thundered. "Him out." Michael didn't answer. He just pointed toward the living room, where a faint sob leaked through the door. That was the moment Grace realized. The danger wasn't outside her gates. It was living inside her home. Stay with us. Subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales for stories that prove even in the darkest rooms, truth still finds its voice. Under the dim light of the chandelier, the house stood frozen in time. Grace's breath hitched as she leaned closer to the crack in the door. The faint sob of her daughter sliced through the silence. Small, trembling, almost apologetic. Her eyes adjusted to the glow spilling from the living room, and what she saw carved through every layer of her composure. Her 3 children knelt on the marble floor. Emma's knees pressed into the stone until they turned red. Oliver's small hands clutched his shirt, fighting back tears. Sophie, her youngest, rocked slightly, whispering to her stuffed bear as if the toy could protect her. And in front of them stood Patrick Ellis, her husband, holding a glass of whiskey as if it were a royal scepter. His voice was calm, rehearsed, like a man delivering a lecture instead of punishment. "You think life is fair," he said quietly. "You think your mother works so hard for you to turn her home into chaos?" Emma shook her head, her voice cracking. "I'll clean it, I promise." Patrick smiled without warmth. "You always promise. You never learn." He raised his hand slightly, and all 3 children flinched. That simple motion shattered something in Grace. Her hand trembled against the wall, and Michael's grip tightened on her arm. "Don't go in yet," he whispered. Grace's whisper came out as a hiss. "He's hurting them." "He's done this before," Michael said, eyes hollow. "You run in now, he'll twist it. You'll lose them. We need proof." The word proof burned through her like fire. Proof that her children had been living in fear while she signed contracts, while she smiled for cameras, while she convinced herself she'd built a perfect life. Inside the room, Patrick's tone darkened. "Your mother doesn't need lazy kids. She needs discipline." He poured another glass, the sound of whiskey splashing against crystal slicing through the tension. "Get up." The children stood shaking. "Now kneel again." Emma's voice broke. "Please, Dad, we didn't." "Quiet." He threw the empty glass into the fireplace, where it shattered into glittering shards. The echo rang like gunfire. "You will stay here until I say otherwise. If you move, you lose dinner. If you talk, you lose breakfast." Grace's body tensed, ready to burst through the door, but Michael moved faster. He pulled his phone from his pocket, angled it through the crack, and hit record. "You'll need this," he murmured. Grace could only nod. Her world had collapsed into 2 sounds, the faint sobbing of her children and the quiet hum of the camera capturing the truth. Hours blurred. The footage ran long enough for the night to grow darker, until Patrick finally barked, "Go to bed." The children ran upstairs, stumbling in exhaustion. When the sound of their footsteps faded, Patrick sank into the sofa, lit a cigar, and exhaled like a king surveying his empire. Grace's hand clenched into a fist. "Tomorrow," she whispered, her voice shaking but certain. "Tomorrow he'll never touch them again." The next morning the sun rose like a lie. Patrick acted as if nothing had happened. He hummed while making coffee, kissed her cheek when she walked into the kitchen, and spoke about his meeting schedule. Grace said nothing. Her smile was razor-thin. Inside, her mind was already mapping out the war. When Patrick left to drop Sophie at school, Grace turned to Michael. "Show me everything." He unlocked his phone. The screen filled with footage. Patrick's voice, Patrick's threats, Patrick's hands forcing her son to kneel. Each clip was worse than the last. Grace's tears fell silently. "How long has this been happening?" Michael's voice was low. "Almost a year." A year. A year of bruises hidden under long sleeves. A year of polite smiles masking terror. A year of her children whispering, "We're fine, Mom," because they were too scared to tell the truth. Grace inhaled deeply. "I want him out. But I don't want a scene. He'll fight back." Michael nodded. "Then we do it right. I'll back you up. You'll need legal proof." Grace met his eyes. "And you'll stand with me." He didn't hesitate. Until the end. That afternoon, Grace's lawyer arrived quietly through the back gate. They reviewed the footage, drafted the papers, and arranged for a restraining order. Grace's composure was pure steel, her voice steady, her anger sharpened into purpose. 4 years, she'd negotiated billion-dollar mergers. Now she was negotiating freedom. By evening, Patrick came home, still smiling, still pretending. Grace waited in the living room, the same room he had used as his private stage of control. The camera lights from Michael's phone blinked red from the corner, quietly recording again. Patrick raised an eyebrow. "You're home early again. Something wrong?" Grace stood tall. "Everything." He laughed softly. "Is this another one of your moods?" Her voice cut through him. "No, this is clarity." Patrick's charm faltered. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I know what you've done," she said. "To my children. To this family." Patrick scoffed. "I have no idea what you're talking about." "Then maybe this will refresh your memory." Michael stepped from behind the curtain, phone in hand. He pressed play. The living room filled with Patrick's voice. Cruel, slurred, unmistakable. "You are burdens. Your father is dead. You'll learn obedience." Patrick froze. This is edited." Grace's tone didn't rise. "Your voice, your face, your hands. Explain that." He looked at Michael with fury. "You think you can ruin me? You're just the janitor." Michael's eyes met his, steady. "I was an engineer once. I built things to keep people safe. And now I'm doing it again." Patrick lunged forward, but Grace moved first. She threw the papers onto the table. The divorce, the restraining order, and a USB drive labeled evidence. Her voice carried the calm of someone who had finally stopped being afraid. "You'll leave tonight. Or the police will come." For the first time, Patrick looked small. The confidence drained from his face, replaced by something pitiful and desperate. "Grace, you're making a mistake. No one will believe you." "Then they'll believe the video," she said coldly. He tried one last act of defiance. "You'll regret this." She smiled faintly. "No, Patrick. You will." The sound of the front door slamming behind him was softer than she expected, but in that silence, the house finally exhaled. For the first time in a year, the air was clean. Days later, his downfall spread beyond the mansion. The video, leaked by an anonymous source, circulated quietly among the elite circles Patrick once ruled. Business partners withdrew. His investors vanished, and within a week, his accounts were frozen pending investigation for domestic abuse and fraud. Grace didn't watch the news, but she heard enough to know justice had arrived without her lifting another finger. Inside the mansion, life began to bloom again. Emma laughed more freely. Oliver started playing piano. Sophie drew pictures of the family with bright colors. 4 smiling faces under a shining sun. Grace took each moment slowly, as if afraid it might disappear, but it didn't. Michael stayed on, helping where he could, fixing things that didn't need fixing just to hear the sound of laughter in the hallways. One evening, Grace found him in the garden, repairing the old swing set. "You don't have to do that," she said softly. He glanced at her. "Maybe I do. Some things are worth rebuilding." They stood in silence for a while, the faint buzz of cicadas filling the air. Then Grace spoke. "I couldn't have done any of this without you." Michael shook his head. You could have. You just needed a reason to remember who you are. She smiled, the kind that reaches the eyes. Then maybe you were that reason. The garden lights flickered, and for the first time, she let herself feel peace. Not the fragile calm of denial, but the solid quiet that comes after a storm. Yet beneath that peace was something stronger, a fire that had been reignited. Grace returned to work, but differently. She created a foundation for women escaping abusive relationships, funding shelters and legal aid. Her story stayed private, but her purpose became public. When reporters asked what inspired her, she only said, "A lesson learned too late, but never again." Months passed, and the mansion transformed. The once sterile space filled with the warmth of laughter, the scent of home-cooked meals, and the soft hum of life returning. One night, as Grace watched her children asleep, she whispered, "You're safe now." In another corner of the house, Michael stood by the window, looking out over the city lights. Grace joined him quietly. "He's gone for good," she said. Michael nodded. Men like him always think power protects them. It never does. She turned toward him, eyes soft. "Thank you, Michael. For everything." He met her gaze, voice steady. "Thank you for letting me make it right." For a long moment neither spoke. Outside, the wind brushed against the glass, carrying the faint scent of jasmine from the garden. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And somewhere in the distance, a police siren wailed, a reminder that justice, however late, still comes. Grace took Michael's hand, their fingers entwined in quiet understanding. The nightmare was over. The story wasn't just about pain, it was about survival, the kind that turns wounds into wisdom. Because sometimes the cruelest monsters hide behind gentle smiles, and sometimes the bravest heroes wear work gloves. But on that night in Beverly Hills, one truth became undeniable. No mask can hide evil forever, and no silence lasts when love decides to speak. Weeks passed before the house truly felt alive again. The laughter of Grace's children no longer carried fear. It carried warmth. Every morning, she brewed coffee not as a routine but as a quiet victory. The woman who once signed contracts worth millions now found greater meaning in packing school lunches and watching the sunrise from her kitchen window. She had learned that strength wasn't built in boardrooms but in the courage to face the truth inside one's own home. Michael stayed on, though neither of them spoke of what had grown between them. It was enough to share the silence, the kind that healed instead of haunted. One evening, as the wind swept through the garden, Grace stood beside him, looking at the stars. "I used to think wealth meant control," she said softly. "Now I know it means responsibility." Michael smiled. "And you've used it well." Later that night, Grace tucked her children into bed. Sophie whispered, "Mom, are monsters real?" Grace brushed her hair gently. "Yes," she said, "but so are people who stop them." Down the hall, the chandelier flickered, scattering golden light across the marble floor, the same place that once held so much pain. Now it reflected peace. Grace closed her eyes and let the moment settle like a promise. She would never be silent again. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales, where courage, truth, and kindness find their voice.